Hey friend, do you ever feel like your stomach is doing backflips before you press record on your podcast? I'm Jen Eads, the head broad in charge at the Brassy Broadcasting Company, and I've been recording podcasts for years, and I still get a little nervous before I press record, especially if I'm doing a video podcast. But I have created a tool to help me keep that nervousness in check. And it's actually a checklist. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 10 tips that I think are most important from that checklist. But if you want the full checklist, I've got a link to it in the description below. You can download it for free. And I'm not one of those people that's like, stick around till the end of my video and I'll tell you my number one tip. Oh no, that's what we are going to start with, because if you get nothing else from this, get this one crucial tip, and that is communicate. Communicate with your guests. Communication creates clarity. Clarity boosts confidence, and confident podcasters make better podcasts. Your guests are going to love you when you communicate with them clearly. Set expectations, tell them what your goals are for the episode, and then send them a checklist, because part of your job as a podcast producer or a host is to make your guest look like an absolute rock star to your community. Set yourself and your guest up for success. Number 2 is make sure that your guest has a way to contact you. Maybe it's your cell phone number, so that they can text you if they're having any trouble getting into your virtual recording studio, because you don't want to be sitting there just waiting for them, wondering, did they forget? Are they blowing me off? What's going on here? I can't tell you the number of times I've been so grateful that that guest had my cell phone number so they could text me, and then I could walk them through whatever challenges they were having and get them in the studio so we could get that interview recorded. And I've also lost internet connection during podcast recordings, so make sure that your guest knows in advance what the plan is should you lose connection. Maybe there's a thunderstorm, or sometimes the internet just goes out. We've all been there. Make sure they know what the plan is and how to reconnect so you can continue the conversation. And here's a bonus tip. If you and your guest are connecting over the web, for example, I use Riverside.fm to record my virtual podcast interviews. And I know that Riverside, at least at the time of this recording, recommends that you use Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge. So make sure that your guest knows which web browser they need to be using to connect to the studio. And tip number 3, hold on while I magically turn into your favorite IT support person. I'm going to tell you to restart your computer. I don't know what it is. I mean, we all need a reset sometimes, so of course our computers would need a reset because they've been working hard. Shut it down, fire it back up, and when you fire it back up, only open the applications that you're going to need to open while you are recording. This will help save some of that CPU brain power. Number 4, silence those notifications on all of your devices, your laptop, your iPad, your phone, your pager, if you're still stuck in the 90s. It's so distracting to your listeners when they hear those notifications going off during an interview, because it always happens as your guest is telling this really incredible story and your audience is just like leaned in, like, tell me everything. And then doodly-doo, doodly-doo, distraction. And the moment is gone forever. Silence those notifications before you press record. Number 5, you and your guest should both be wearing headphones. Now, these are my go-to headphones. They're made by Sony. I've used them for years. I'll put a link to them in the description. You're like, but Jen, it's going to smash my hair. Look, it's not 1989. But if you're worried about smashing your hair, I have another alternative for you. It's these handy dandy earbuds. Also, if you don't have an external microphone, you've got a built-in microphone on your earbuds right here. These are my go-to in a pinch if maybe I'm traveling or I don't have a microphone with me. earbuds with built-in microphone, and they are wired because Bluetooth is its own kind of nightmare that we aren't even going to get into in this video. Number 6, listen before you press record. Listen for anything that is going to be annoying or maybe a distraction during the recording. This can be sounds like the AC, the furnace kicking on. Maybe you hear a really loud fan running, or leaf blowers are a big one. I've stopped before I pressed record on an interview and asked the guest, hey, can you go out and talk to the lawn guy and have him turn off the leaf blower so that we can record this? Because here's one thing you never want to say. Oh, my editor is amazing. She can totally fix that and make it go away. No. Unless your editor is named Harry Potter, there are limitations to what editors can do, no matter how fabulous and wonderful they are. And you love your editor. Why make her life more difficult? Or if you're your own editor, you really don't want to have to try to fix that later. So take the time, listen for room noise, and your editor will love you forever. And number 7, this is a big one. Check your connections. So make sure that if you're using an external microphone, which I recommend, that whatever you're using to record, whether it's Zoom, whether you're recording directly into your laptop, whether you're using something like Riverside or Squadcast, make sure that it is set to pick up that external microphone. Same thing with headphones and where it's outputting the sound. You don't want sound to come back through your computer speakers, which is why I recommend headphones. So make sure that the sound is routed through your headphones. And if you are recording video, make sure that it's set to the correct video camera. A lot of times it will default to your built-in computer camera. If you're using your iPhone, which is what I'm using to record this video, or maybe you've got an external webcam, make sure that is the feed that's going into the recording. I can't tell you how many times that my clients have sent me episodes and they're like, oh my gosh, Jen, we had the most amazing conversation. And they did, except that sounded like this because their recording had defaulted back to their built-in microphone, and then they sounded like they were in a tin can, and it was very sad. And like I said, your editor can only do so much. And number 8, this annoys me to no end. It is like nails on a chalkboard. It's this. The clickety-clack, tippy-tap of typing during an interview, because nothing says, hey, I'm really invested and present in this conversation, like hearing the clickety-clack of keys in the background. This is something to review with your guest. If there are some resources they need to have pulled up or that you need to have pulled up or some notes, pull those up before you press record. Or pause while they pull it up and then cut the clickety-clack later. Number 9, check pronunciation. Confirm that you're saying your guest's name correctly. Or if you look at it and you're like, I'm totally going to butcher this, just ask them. Nobody's going to get mad that you took the time to ask how to correctly pronounce their name or the company where they work or some other organization that they're involved with. Always check. For example, my last name is spelled EDDS. It looks like Eds, but it's actually pronounced Eads. So I've just gotten in the habit over the years of telling the podcast host, hey, I know my name looks like Eds, but it's actually pronounced Eads. Because you don't want to say your guest's name wrong. Your guest will appreciate that you took the time to do it correctly. And even if you don't get it exactly right, at least they know that you made the effort. And number 10, if you're doing video, make sure that you check your lighting and your framing. All right, here's a YouTube confession for you. I mean, if you've stuck around this long through the video, I feel like we're basically friends now. This is the second time I've had to record this video because the first time I recorded it, there was this really weird shadow that I couldn't get off of my face. But I didn't notice it at the time of recording because I was looking at a little screen. But it was there when I went to do the editing and it wasn't going anywhere. and it looked weird. So at that point, it was easier just to sit down and press record again. But know this, I made sure I tested my lighting and did some test recordings to make sure that I wouldn't have the same issue this time. Here's just a couple things to look for when you're doing video. Pay attention to the framing. Are you or your guest way down here? Or maybe way up here? That's going to be kind of weird. And if your guest is wearing a color and they blend into the background, it's kind of weird if they just look like a little floating head. So make sure that there's some contrast there. Look for anything weird, like weird shadows, anything that might be distracting or offensive before you press record. Look, I get it. When you're starting out recording podcasts, especially when you're adding video to the mix, any little hiccup can feel like a giant mountain to overcome. So hopefully this checklist will help you avoid the same mistakes that I've made. I mean, my screw-ups were really the foundation of this checklist. So don't make the same mistakes that I've made. My hope is that this checklist will help boost your confidence. And confident podcasters show up more relaxed. And then when your guest sees that you're relaxed and confident, then they're going to relax and you're going to have a better conversation. And if you're looking for more tips on how to prepare your podcast guest for a great interview, I've made another video. It's called How to Prepare Your Podcast Guest to Record. Check it out. Take these tips, make them your own, download the free checklist, and in the comments, let me know which tip you thought was most helpful. And if you got something out of this video, subscribe to my channel for more podcasting practices and insights that are going to help you make the podcast that your community can't live without. Thanks for tuning in. Now get out in the world and do some good.